You know, if you've ever felt like the ground beneath your feet was shifting in a way that doesn't quite make sense, you aren't alone. We're living through a moment in American politics where the most basic, fundamental definitions, things we used to take for granted as settled reality, have become high-stakes battlegrounds. It's like we're sitting at a table across from each other trying to agree on what color the sky is, only to find out that blue is now a matter of political debate. This isn't just about terminology, it's about the erosion of public trust in the institutions that are supposed to guide us. Take this recent exchange between Senator Josh Hawley and Dr. Verma. It is one of the most revealing moments I've seen in a congressional hearing in years. Hawley starts with a question that, on its face, shouldn't be a trap. Do you think that men can get pregnant? What follows is a 5-minute masterclass in what happens when ideology and biological reality collide in a room full of cameras. The atmosphere in that room was thick. You could see Dr. Verma's hesitation immediately. She actually admits to it, saying she wasn't sure where the conversation was going. But Hawley, leaning in with that sharp prosecutorial edge he's known for, doesn't let her off the hook. He's not asking for a lecture on identity. He's asking for a biological yes or no. This is the kind of raw, unfiltered breakdown we provide here every single day. If you want to make sure you're staying ahead of these cultural and political shifts, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't done so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you bring it up, why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics.
Absolutely.
So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics.
Absolutely.
So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. You know, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex.
As we dive deeper into this, watch the body language. Dr. Verma remains calm, but her speech is incredibly guarded. She uses what we call linguistic insulation, talking about people with different identities, rather than answering the biological question. It's a fascinating pivot. Hawley, meanwhile, uses the science and evidence trap. He reminds her that she just testified that science, not politics, should control medicine. He's essentially saying, okay, doctor, you invoked the name of science. Now use it. But the yes or no never comes. Dr. Verma calls these types of questions political tools, while Hawley fires back that they are about the truth. This isn't just a 2026 hearing, it's a continuation of a battle that reached the Supreme Court just the day before. Hawley correctly points out that this isn't theoretical. It affects real people, real laws, and real constitutional protections. What's really striking here is the shift to the actual subject of the hearing, the safety of women and the adverse effects of certain medical drugs. Hawley drops a staggering statistic, claiming that a specific abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases, a rate he says is 22 times greater than the FDA label admits. He's using the doctor's refusal to define a woman to undermine her credibility on women's safety. It's an intelligent, if aggressive, rhetorical move. He's arguing that if you won't acknowledge the basic biological reality of who gets pregnant, how can we trust your scientific analysis of the risks involved in that pregnancy?
I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
female with
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
what you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question, it sounds like to me.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask, I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
It also,
We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label, another fact you haven't acknowledged, and yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with this on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women, and I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing, that is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And I'm glad we had this exchange because it is exceptionally clarifying. It is also in many ways quite depressing. I see that my time has nearly expired. I just want to thank the other witnesses for being here. Thank you for protecting women and children. Thank you for your valiant efforts. Thank you for following the science. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this hearing.
The language gets even more pointed toward the end. Hawley describes the doctor's position as deeply corrosive to public trust and the U.S. Constitution. He's making a broader point about the separation of powers and the unique protections the Constitution offers to women as women. It's a reference to decades of settled law that is suddenly being questioned. He calls the exchange exceptionally clarifying, but also depressing. This wasn't just a political gotcha moment, it was a snapshot of a country in a deep identity crisis. On one side, you have a push for complex experiences and identities. On the other, a demand for biological reality and truth. As a news analyst, I can tell you that this kind of friction is exactly why the public feels so alienated from DC right now. When experts in white coats won't answer basic questions, it creates a vacuum that is usually filled by skepticism and division. Whether you agree with Hawley's line of questioning or Dr. Verma's inclusive approach, you can't deny that the clash itself is the story. It shows that even in 2026, we are still litigating the very first pages of the human biology textbook. If you found this breakdown helpful, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. We need to stay loud, stay free, and most importantly, stay informed. This is the Melissa's Daily Report, and we'll see you in the next one.